Daggerheart is dead. We're going to talk about that nonsense and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 252 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's very own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
Let's talk about Daggerheart.
Yes.
More specifically, let's discuss the
Our
news.
experience with Dagger. No.
We will definitely be talking about that for sure. Last week, they had a big announcement for Campaign 4. They talked more about the type of campaign they would be running.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a brand new world that Brennan Lee Mulligan is coming up with, departing from Alexandria. It will also have 13 players.
Wow.
So
That's going to be
yes, well,
a lot to
that is going to be a lot.
keep track of.
Well, here's what they're going to do, and I find this fascinating. They're going to run this as a Western Marches style campaign. They're going to be running 3 different groups simultaneously in this world.
Okay, so I feel like this is an anthology in my head.
Yeah, so basically the way Western Marches works, it's kind of like in Game of Thrones. You would have one group of people and you'd focus on them for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have another group of people and you'd focus on them. In a sense, they're going to have 3 different tables. They're going to have the soldiers, who are the players that want to do a lot of dungeon crawls and combat.
Okay.
And then you have the seekers, which are the players interested in the lore side of things.
Okay.
Their adventures will concentrate on finding out the backgrounds and lores. And then you have the schemers, which are the ones into the politics and the intrigue.
If I were to compare this in movie terms, I would think of this as like Love Actually, Valentine's Day, He's Just Not That Into You, big movies that have a big cast with like 10 story threads.
Yeah.
Is that a safe comparison?
Yes, I would say that.
I think of that as an anthology movie. So I've never heard that term, Western March.
It's something that you've seen in tabletops before. It is a style of tabletops where a game master has different groups of players that he plays with.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they play in a shared world. They have their own adventures, but what one group does can affect something that happens to the other group. There's a lot of timekeeping involved with this. This is going to be a massive undertaking. Brennan Lee Mulligan has decided he really wants to make life tough for himself.
Okay.
Because he's not going to be running one game, he's going to be running 3. There will be points where you'll have some people from one group.
Crossover.
Yeah, there'll be some crossover
Yes.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
And there's been some experiment with that with Critical Role, where they've been doing a lot of their live events,
Uh-huh.
where they've had characters from one season interacting with characters from another season. And also they've had times where in one season you may have a cameo by a character in a previous season.
That feels closer to American Horror Story.
Definitely something like that. And so basically this is going to be, as far as live plays go, one of the most intricate, one of the most complex, one of the most wide-spanning stories that you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about it, too, is that as much planning as that's going to take, obviously, Brendan doesn't know where the story is going to go because he doesn't know where the players are going to focus themselves. He has some potential big bads that are out there, but whoever people decide are the ones that they need to deal with, that's where the story's going to go. He's got a lot of prep, but he's going to be playing a lot of stuff off the cuff. Now, of course, Brendan's really good at that. He is very good with improv and coming up with things. And so, honestly, this will probably be the biggest challenge he's taken on as a GM, because not only are you dealing with 3 campaigns that have to have continuity, and you have to figure out how one group's actions are going to affect other groups and having a lot of that stuff carry over and having these threads intertangle. And of course, who do we have at the table this week? What group are we going to focus on? Are we going to take some of the soldiers and put one of the seekers with them because they're trying to find this artifact? Or are you going to deal with the soldiers doing a piece of work for the schemers, or having the schemers go to the seekers looking for information? There's going to be a lot of mix and match.
Mhm.
and this is going to be a long campaign.
I don't see how it couldn't be.
Yeah. And one of the advantages, you have 13 really, really good players.
Mhm.
You have the original 7, but others that have guest starred and have done great live plays. It's going to be very interesting to watch how this comes into focus and to see where they go with it. It's also good for the players because they're not going to have to play every week like it used to be.
Right. Yeah, that'll
So you can mix and match. And also, if for some reason a player can't make it,
Mhm.
you can mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, that might be an interesting idea to take into home games.
Well,
have some alternates. If your kid's got soccer season coming up, what if we bring in someone who doesn't have anything going on until baseball season
oh yeah,
out?
and I've heard about that being done on some tables, being able to switch people out because unless you're the type of DM who doesn't know better and you don't care how many people are at your table, most DMs have a hard limit. They're like,
I
this is
can only handle
this is how many
5 people.
Yeah, which is about where I draw my line. I say 5. I would consider 6 maybe, but after that, it becomes unruly unless you're doing LARPs, live action role play. And I've run LARPs of up to 100 people, which you can do.
If you're doing Vampire the Masquerade and half of them die throughout the night, right?
The thing is, as you're running the game, you don't have to sit on everybody. They can be very self motivated and deal with stuff on their own. Very seldom you find yourself in a situation where you have to make a rule judgment. Just because of the structure of the LARP, it is very much self generating. You just throw ideas in, throw complications, and then watch what happens. But I'm really going to be interested to see how this new campaign goes. There was one little bit of controversy about Campaign 4, and that is the game they're going to be playing is Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, yeah. I thought,
Yeah,
I
they're
think we
not.
covered that.
We did talk about that last time. Everyone has been losing their mind over it. Well, I can't say everybody.
What's the deal? I mean, they're founded on doing Dungeons and Dragons. What is the big deal?
Well, the big deal is Daggerheart. And there have been people asking, why are they not running Daggerheart? That's their system. They created this system. Does this mean that they don't have faith in their system? Does it mean that there's a problem with the system where they know it's not going to run a campaign that large? Did Wizards of the Coast pay them a bunch of money and they sold out? I mean, I've seen all of these debates going on.
No.
Yeah.
It's just because they want to do Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Because we're not having garlic mashed potatoes, because we're having mashed potatoes, doesn't mean there's a problem with the garlic mashed potatoes, just means we're having mashed potatoes.
I found it amusing, all the debate from the beginning. I think part of the problem people have had is they were hoping that Daggerheart was going to be that D&D killer. A lot of us who've played D&D over the last few years or so feel that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have not treated us the best. When you break up with someone, a very toxic relationship, and you dodged a bullet and got out, but you still can't stand to see them remotely happy. They've got to take the nosedive into hell. It's not enough that you got out from under it. No, they got to be miserable too. And I think there's a bit of that involved in this. And I think that's the reason why you hear a lot of talk online about, is Daggerheart the D&D killer? Because some people were hoping that it would be. They were hoping that Dungeons and Dragons would tank just so they would learn their lesson because they treated us badly, and now they'll pay the price. Now, the moment that I knew that Perkins and Crawford were coming to Darrington Press was the moment I knew that Daggerheart was never meant to be a D&D killer. I don't believe that would even be a good idea to try to make a D&D killer. But I knew that Crawford and Perkins spent over 10 years in Dungeons and Dragons, especially with the new 2024 version, which is going to be the version that Critical Role is going to be taking on, the brand new 2024 rules. But Crawford and Perkins spent so much time with the new 5th edition. This was their baby. If Darrington Press wanted to take out Dungeons and Dragons, that they wanted to be the Dungeons and Dragons killer, Perkins and Crawford wouldn't have had any interest in trying to kill Dungeons and Dragons. Some people might be saying, well, maybe Hasbro treated them badly and they wanted payback. That would be reasonable, except that Perkins and Crawford happen to be adults, regardless of how badly they may have been treated at Hasbro, at Wizards of the Coast.
From a business perspective, it was never going to be a good idea. When Bratz dolls came out, They looked at it as competition toward Barbie. It really wasn't. It was just an addition. No one was ever going to kill Barbie.
Right.
It was just another doll. There was no Barbie killer. Nothing is going to kill the classic. It was just another doll. This is just another game, another option. Pepsi didn't kill Coke.
Although they did try.
It wasn't going to happen. New Coke might have tried.
But look what happened to them. The moment that Coke tried to beat Pepsi by changing their formula, it was a disaster.
It gives people options.
Yeah, exactly. Which, if you love role-playing games, which everyone at Darrington Press obviously does, Perkins and Crawford obviously do, they're not going to try to kill D&D. They don't want to kill D&D.
Competition makes you better.
Yeah. And Crawford and Perkins would have never joined Darrington Press if they thought for a second that Darrington Press was trying to kill any game system, much less Dungeons and Dragons. Because as a business model, it's not attainable. It's a formula for destruction. Also, and I have to give Crispy's Tavern, the YouTube channel, credit for this one, because I had been thinking down this line. He mentioned this in his video, and I was like, yeah, that's absolutely right. One of the things he mentioned was, with a game this big, it's going to take a long time to plan. Obviously, they've been planning this campaign long before Daggerheart ever came out.
Oh, okay.
And here's the thing. There was no guarantee Daggerheart was ever going to do well. You ever hear of Candela Obscura?
Of course not.
Yeah. Well, that was the game they put out before Daggerheart. Matt Mercer did a Kickstarter for a game system a few years ago. I can't remember exactly when. I don't think anybody could. It didn't do well. So the thing is, while you're in the planning stages of this new campaign, you could say, we're going to be doing this new game, Daggerheart, and we should put it out. What would have happened if Daggerheart didn't do well? And now you've got a 2-year campaign based off of this game system that tanks, and within 6 months, they're not even printing it anymore, but you're still playing this thing.
A lot of homebrew. Make up your own.
Yeah, so it would have been a disaster. Yeah, Daggerheart did great, and with Matt Mercer running Age of Umbra, they're still doing Daggerheart on the channel. Also, there's all these other live plays that Darrington Press is sponsoring to play Daggerheart. So it's all over the place. And if Darrington Press decided to make campaign 4 Daggerheart, well, that's the 500-pound gorilla in the room that's going to kill all these other channels. So why do that? Now, the biggest reason for D&D, and I think the most brilliant part of all of this, and why not only am I not upset that they're running D&D for campaign 4, I'm excited about it, was during the fireside chat that Brennan Lee Mulligan and Matt Mercer had. And they talked about this in the big announcement for campaign 4 as well. There's a lot of new stuff they want to introduce into the game. Brennan Lee Mulligan said, what's really great about Darrington Press now is that 2 of the main creators for Dungeons and Dragons are in the building now. So anytime I have an idea for something, I can go to one of them and go, what do you think? And in no time at all, they'll say, tweak this, and that'll fix it. He also mentioned that there's going to be some new mechanics in this game. There's all this new stuff that the 2 of them have come up with that is going to be introduced into the game. And so I think in a real sense, part of what got them to Darrington Press was that not only were they going to get to write for Daggerheart, but they're going to get to write for Dungeons and Dragons. This time, they don't have to answer to Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro. They can just create whatever they want. And through Darrington Press or D&D Beyond, they can publish it. So they can continue to create for Dungeons and Dragons. Through this new campaign, they're going to get to introduce new character classes, new spells, new game mechanics. It wasn't that much of a surprise that they went to D&D for campaign 4, but when you think about it, it's not a bad thing.
Makes the most sense.
It makes the most sense. Plus, if you love D&D, now we don't have to depend on Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro.
Yeah.
2 of the biggest creators for that game are now unfettered and can do whatever they want. Once they start doing that, I think Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, by extension, they're going to have to take notice. maybe doing a sea change in the way that they do things. And so I think this is fantastic. Daggerheart isn't going anywhere. Many people have been playing it. People are loving it. It's not Dungeons and Dragons and was never meant to be. It scratches another itch for gamers, and there's room for both.
Yeah.
As much controversy as some people are trying to stir up about this new campaign, I think it is good news across the board. But while we're talking about Daggerheart, we did our session 0 last weekend.
Yes, we did.
You and I and some friends of ours, including friend of the show, Kevin Pauly.
Yep.
We generated characters, and I
Yeah.
touched a little bit on some of the rules and ideas that I had for what we're going to do for this one shot that may wind up leading into a campaign. I've asked you this question about a lot of shows that we watched, so I'm going to have to ask you about the session 0. What did you think?
I was really excited going into it as I start listening to everyone talking about what they were wanting to play. I went in kind of blind because I wanted to see what everyone else wanted to do. I'm hearing what everyone else wants to play and seeing what we need, what needs filled, and finding out what character we needed. So then I start doing quick researches and putting together a character really quick and looking at all this stuff. I found that a lot of fun. And then that little questionnaire that sort of brought us all together and gave us our backstories. That was really cool. So it's not just everyone's kind of showing up at a tavern and then reading a poster and introducing yourselves that way. You created your backstory at that moment and how you related to all these. We're coming in having already met. So I'm excited about that. I cannot wait for session 1.
Yeah, and not only that characters have met, but also that there are ties and story threads that just
there's history already there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Plot history.
And so none of that existed before I got there. I had a general idea about what I was going to do for this campaign because I've got some ideas for different campaign frames. I just had enough that I would be able to run a session 1 and thought we could develop more of the backstory as we go along because I played a lot of D&D and that's what I was used to.
Right.
Of course, you have questions that the characters ask themselves and questions that you pose to other members of the party. So you build these ties. Now, for a lot of old time gamers, you might look at those things and go, well, that's kind of nice, but how necessary is that? I mean, you can do that if you want to, but if you skip it, it's not going to be that big of a deal. And if you think that, you're making a mistake.
Right.
Because the power of that tool, you cannot underestimate it. As a game master, I have so many threads now that I can build a story around that I didn't have before. And it all came from the player characters interacting with each other in a session 0.
Yeah, like me, I came in totally blank. And our friend Cindy, the only thing she had was, I want a pet bird. That was her entire thing coming into session 0. Now she has a character, she has a backstory, she has a family that she was raised in, she has a people that she was raised in. It was great. I think the only one who came in with a story was Kevin, who came in with a backstory.
Yeah, he had a general idea, but even with his backstory, because he decided to jump onto a question you posed to the group, there's now this very big, interesting thread going on.
Right.
That I've added to, by the way, since the session.
You writer, you.
Well.
And then thinking about it, our friend Carter is basically the devil that met Johnny down in Georgia.
Yeah.
he's the devil who plays the fiddle. It's fantastic. I cannot wait for that.
Oh, yeah. And there's interesting threads about him as well.
We may have to publish the recordings and get its own podcast.
It's very possible. I do have an idea for a live play, but I will talk to you about that later. And
all right.
For the Geek Watchers, stay tuned. This could get really interesting. When I talked to Kevin yesterday, one of the things that he told me about the session 0, besides the fact that he had a great time, which sitting around a table generating characters and not really playing, it doesn't sound like that would be an awful lot of fun, but
it was great fun.
Yeah. He said it was interesting because after they left, he and Cindy, all they could do was talk about what they were thinking about these characters, and they were really excited about coming in for the session. And he said, I love D&D. I'm not going to stop playing D&D. This is the first time I feel like I've created a character that has real agency. I had created a character that I wanted to play and not the character that the book said I had to play.
Yeah.
Daggerheart is very much a fiction-first kind of game. You follow the fiction. You let the dice determine when you don't know which way the story is going to go. You let the dice make some of those decisions for you. But ultimately, the game master and the players determine what the story is. A really good example of that during our session 0 is when Cindy's character gets a bag with rocks and bones in it. She goes, well, wait a minute. Are these just like river stones or rocks? I said, well, who's supposed to determine that? She goes, well, you're the game master.
Right.
It's like, no, you get to make that determination. She goes, well, then they're crystals. And I'm like, well, there you go.
That's immediately what I thought. It's like shiny rocks. Yes.
There you go. So, yeah, that's what's very interesting about this. And as somebody who's played Fiasco with me, you're very much into that improv. And of course, Friday night, you're going to be into a little bit more improv.
Yes.
So
with Factory Resets.
Yes.
In St. Albans.
There you go.
At 7:30.
Plug. But there you go. For you, that's old hat. But introducing this type of collaborative play into tabletop games is going to be fantastic. There have been other games that have done similar things, obviously. I mean, Fiasco, it's almost entirely that. But introducing that into a tabletop game, having enough rules crunch, you get that aspect of it. But also, the rules only really give you game mechanics. They don't tell you how it has to work, and so you're allowed to skin it any way that you want.
Yeah.
It really allows creativity, especially in a time with social media, videos, television, and movies, where you're just passively sitting and taking it in. You don't really get a chance to be creative in that aspect. And games like Daggerheart totally allow you to step in and be creative. Like I said, I had a blast last weekend. I'm really looking forward to
I can't wait
to play. Before we go, I know you haven't had a chance to see episode 2 of Peacemaker, but you've seen episode 1, and we're not really going to go into any spoilers. They hit the ground running. They sure did.
Oh,
they certainly did. We know if you've seen season 1 of Peacemaker, you know what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
Or at least you think you do.
Oh.
I would say first episode of season 2, Chris on cocaine makes some very strange choices. And without going into a whole lot of spoilers, that was a whole lot of penis.
I believe that is on par for, he said he would eat a whole bag of dicks for his country.
I didn't expect to see the bag.
Okay.
That episode 1 for me, it was so weird and strange. Episode 1 ended with the WTF moment that I didn't see coming. Well, there was something that they teased in the trailer, but they went a completely different way with it. That made me go, oh, this is going to be strange and interesting.
Okay.
The cameos already that they've done for this show have been unbelievable.
Excellent.
It's been a lot of fun. And I think this is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see more of it. It's going to definitely keep me well fed as far as DC is concerned. As far as Marvel's concerned, we've got a little bit of a wait for some stuff to come out. But with what's been going on with Fantastic Four and the reception with Thunderbolts, which is now, you can now watch that on streaming. But
yay.
So and now you can finally watch.
Yes, I'll watch it.
So you can get caught up on that. As far as what lies in the future for DC and Marvel, and of course, what's going to lie in the future for Daggerheart and for us, I guess we'll see.
We shall see.
And with that said, we come to the end of episode 252. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.